Hey everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Show Stopping Sales. I may have said that twice, I'm still getting used to Facebook Live here. So, I am Jane Gary. I am known as the sales strategist for the non-salesperson, and successful growth-oriented business owners hire me to stop the stress and get to yes in their sales consultations or their strategy sessions. That's so they can hear significantly less, I'd love to, but I can't afford it, or gosh, I'll have to think about it, and start hearing more, sounds great, and how do we get started? So if you are a business owner who wants to increase your sales conversion, shorten your sales cycle, and increase the impact and influence you have with the work that you do, and have more fun with the whole thing when it comes to sales and selling, then you are in the right place. So today what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about creating safe places. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because last night had a very interesting thing happen. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. And of course, on top of the shelter in place, which we are all experiencing right now, to top it off, the ever-loving Lulu, we had a tornado warning. So I was watching the TV and all of a sudden these sirens were starting to go off. The phone was blowing up. There was all this commotion and cacophony of seek shelter immediately, seek shelter immediately. So that was how I spent my evening last night. On top of everything else that's going on, I'm seeking shelter on top of seeking shelter on top of sheltering in place. So there are really only two ways to look at this, which is kind of what happens in a sales conversation. It can feel stressful and unpleasant because you don't know what to do and you're feeling a little threatened and confused and overwhelmed. Or you can say to yourself, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me to create a safe place, for me to find my safe place, for me to navigate my prospect to a safe place, and for me to create the safe space for myself and for my prospects. So today I'm going to cover 3 points, and I'm not going to go a whole hour. Hopefully this will take maybe about 20 minutes. I know if you're anything like me, you're probably starting to feel overwhelmed and overcrowded with all of the online chatter and noise that is now starting to happen for you. So we are going to go through this at a pretty rapid pace, and I'm just going to give you 3 very clear points that you can hopefully hang on to and do something with. So here we go. Number 1. Sales is always an inside game before it is anything else. So if you don't have what you need in your own head and your real estate between here and here, it's going to be problematic to have any kind of sales conversation that's efficient and effective. So I want to define that a little bit for you. A sales conversation simply means that you are having an exchange, you are communicating with another human being for the purposes of trying to get a better idea of where they are now, where they want to be, and if you are the best person to provide that solution, if you actually have the best solution. So one thing I really want you to start getting is a mind shift in your brain about what sales is a sales conversation isn't the goal where you're going to show up and close. That actually creates a lot of stress for you. It puts that energy out there for your prospects. So a sales conversation, the objective always is that you're going to show up, you're going to have a rich conversation so you can determine whether or not this person has the problem that you can solve, and if you are the best person with the best solution to do that. If that's not the case, then there's no offer to be made and there's no sale that you have to worry about. And that is a person that's not a good fit for you. That's a pretty deep subject. I'm going to talk about that a lot more in upcoming training. So for today, I just wanted you to get that as a baseline. So we're talking about creating safe spaces. So number 1, because sales is an inside job, you need to create a safe space for yourself and because of yourself. So you need to create a safe space for yourself and with yourself. Now, the reason this is so important is if you don't do that, and there are a couple key things that you need to do, which I'm going to go over, by nature, there's going to be this transference of energy where if you don't feel safe with you, you're going to walk into a conversation where your prospect doesn't feel safe with you either. So you have got to make sure that you create a safe space for yourself with yourself. So what does that look like? First and foremost, you have got to be honest with yourself about what you are feeling and explore those feelings. I'm not just talking about a sales conversation. I'm actually talking about in all these situations, especially now, but it's always applicable. What are you feeling? And explore those feelings. If you don't tell yourself the truth, if you're not honest and create a safe space where you can say, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm excited, I'm overjoyed, I'm irritated, whatever the emotion it is that you have, if you don't really explore that feeling and be honest with yourself that, yes, this is what I'm feeling, you're already starting to create a barrier where you're not going to be able to show up for your prospect. So the first thing under creating a safe space for yourself, with yourself, is you've got to be very honest about your feelings and explore those feelings. Second point under creating a safe space for yourself, with yourself, is you have got to tell yourself the truth about what you want and need. You have got to tell yourself the truth about what you want and need every day, all day. And by the way, make no mistake that telling yourself the truth is the hardest truth you will ever have to tell. Most of us are very masterful at convincing ourselves that we are feeling something other than we really are. Most of us are masters at telling ourselves that we're okay when we might not really be. And most of us can get really good at saying, I'm doing my best work here or a good job here, when we know, in fact, we're actually not. Now, that's not to take away when you are actually doing your best work and doing a really good job, because that happens too. However, you want to make sure that you are always telling yourself the truth about your actions and about your intentions behind those actions. Now, here's the beauty of that. I did not say share that with anybody else. That is between you and you. And here's the thing that I know. If you are not telling yourself the truth about your actions and your intentions behind your actions, things are going to start getting muddled. They're going to get muddled for you. And then again, it's going to be this transference of muddling when you get into a conversation. Tell yourself the truth about what you want and what you need in all circumstances, in all times. Now, this first point is about creating a safe space for yourself, with yourself. If you do not do this, here's what will happen. Then this is how it shows up in a sales conversation. You are not going to be fully present for your prospective client. You're going to be distracted in your own mind about what's going on. And the reason you're going to be distracted is there's going to be a lot of subconscious anxiety or just even preoccupation with what is going on in your life, in the moment, in your day, because there is confusion there. When you don't tell yourself the truth, your brain becomes confused. So let me give you a really simple example. I'm really thirsty. And you say to yourself, no, I'm not really thirsty. I don't have time to go refill my water jar. I have to go do X, Y, and Z. Well, the truth is your body knows the truth. Your mind knows the truth that you were really thirsty, but you're not being honest with yourself. You are saying, nope, I'm not. And I'll just, move past this or move through it. So imagine that amplified. Imagine having a variety of scenarios in which you know the truth, your subconscious knows the truth, and your logical brain is trying to come over top of it and say, nope, we're going to push through, going to be fine. I'm not feeling that way. It's no, I'm not sad. No, I'm upset. No, I'm not I'm other than what I am. So how that shows up in the sales conversation is you can't be there for your prospect. You can't be there fully present, fully attuned, and fully listening to what this other person is saying, because you're going to have all this background noise, which you may or may not even recognize when you go into a conversation. I can use myself as a great example of this, because what I have learned over the years is I can get really, like any of us, but I know for me, I can really start to stuff my feelings a lot. I become very task oriented. I'm going to do the job that I am supposed to do. And I'm not going to give myself the luxury to feel how I'm feeling right now. I'm not going to give in to these emotions. I'm going to be the professional and I'm going to show up. And you know what shows up? What shows up is me actually not being fully present and showing up for the person who needs me. So what I've done over the years is I have gotten really disciplined, and let me tell you, it is tough to be very honest with myself and just take a pause, just take a moment and say, you know what, this thing that happened earlier today really had me very frustrated or really had me very upset. And I'm owning that. And after this next section of time, because I do have things on my calendar, I'm going to attend to that and I'm going to problem solve. But I'm gonna own that. I'm going to actually allow myself to feel that I was frustrated or upset, and it will get tended to. If you do not create a safe space for yourself with yourself, you really are not going to be able to do it for somebody else. And a really great sales conversation is all about creating the safe space for your prospect. So that leads me to point number 2. You need to always, always, always create a safe space for your clients or your potential clients. It has to be a sacred space that just feels safe. Here's a reason why you need to do that as a sub point. You really need to hear what they're saying to you. And even more importantly, you need to hear what they're not saying to you. When you are completely dialed in any conversation where the only thing that matters to you in that moment is that other person, you will hear voice inflection. You will hear sentences trail off because the other person doesn't want to finish them. You will hear them say things in words that aren't matching the tone in which they're delivering that message. So when you are completely, fully attuned to what they are saying, you have a different energy about you and it becomes a safe space. Your prospect can say anything they need to say to you fully, unapologetically, unabashed, with commitment and passion behind it, because they can tell that you're listening. And more importantly, they can tell that you actually care about what they're saying. So when you create a sacred, safe place for your prospects, they will be much more inclined to tell you their truth of what is happening for them. And until anybody does that, nobody can really start to make a decision that's empowered. So you need to hold that space for the person who desperately wants to tell you the truth, but they're feeling into whether or not they are able to do that and if it's going to be safe. Here's something that I've learned over, how long have I been I've been a professional salesperson my entire life. It is the only job I have ever had: sales training, sales mentoring, sales management, and sales production, sales producing, actually having sales conversations. And I can tell you unequivocally, over counting up how many years, it's been almost 30 years that I've been doing this. The stories that you will hear from people, they will blow your socks off. Some will make you laugh just hysterically because they are just so amazing and so funny, and some will just, you'll be fighting back tears because they are so profound and they are so they'll really put their tentacles into your heart. So here's what I want to say about this in a conversation where you're creating a safe space: is sometimes you are the only person who has ever cared enough about your prospective client that you're talking to actually listen to what they have to say. And I really want you to sink into that and feel that. Sometimes you are the only person who is showing up in love and in patience and completely unattached, with no agenda, to listen and hear what it is that they're wanting to say. I'm not talking about letting someone go on and on with a story with details that have no bearing on what's actually happening. I'm also not talking about you getting into and kind of caving into their story. So there's a difference between somebody sharing their story and somebody being stuck in it. Those are two different things. And again, if you have any questions on that, you can always send me an email. Let me know. I will be addressing that on future topics. For today, I want you to take away this point. You are sometimes the only person that will care enough about this other person to let them say what they need to say. This is critical. If you attempt to emotionally hijack someone and move them through what they need to say, it's just such a disservice all the way around. And again, I really want to stress this. I am not talking about letting somebody get stuck in their story and tell you for 45 minutes what happened when their life started back in the whatever, pick a year. So I want to be really clear about that, because I can hear a lot of you going, I can't have 4-hour sales conversations where they're telling me all about their life. You're right, you can. And I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm asking you to do is make the space safe, though, so they can share with you where they are and where they want to be from here. So going back and kind of recapping that, you need to hear what they say. You need to understand what their story is without getting stuck in it or just being a bystander that's going to listen to them ad nauseum go on about everything that's ever happened in their life. And you need to make sure that that space is created. So this is how it shows up in the sales conversation. When you create the safe space, or what I call the opening, the open, you will never have to worry about closing again. The number one question that I get asked when I'm sitting on any kind of panel, or it's one of those, expert in the room kind of things, the number one question I get asked is, how can I be a better closer? Jane, I have a question. How can I become a better closer? And I always say, you don't have to become a better closer. You have to become a better opener. Because when you open a space that is safe for someone to tell you their truth, when you open a dialogue that is authentic and honest and real, when you open this container that somebody can walk into and just kind of take a deep breath and a sigh of relief that you are there, you see them, you hear them, and you really want to understand them. That is getting very good at opening. And when you do that, I promise you the close will take care of itself. Third point, you need to create a safe place for you with community so you get the guidance and support that you need. So you need to create a safe community for you where you can go, get your questions answered, get encouragement when you need it, and really create an opportunity for yourself to grow. So a couple points into this. You need to find someplace that's just going to pick you up. These are the people that are going to cheer you on. They're going to champion you. They're going to tell you you can do it. They are your biggest fans. They're your biggest cheerleaders. There's nothing about you that they don't applaud and don't celebrate. I'm not saying you don't have your little quirks and foibles, because we all do. But what I'm saying is these people love you unconditionally. When you are down, they will get you up. When you are feeling off your game, they will get you back on it. When you are feeling depleted, they will replenish you. These are your fans. These are your unconditional, we love you no matter what, simply because you and you are enough. And we are glad you are here on this planet. So find a community that will do that. I always think in terms of, and I don't know why, because I'm not a big sports person, but I always think in terms of boxing for some reason. And I actually did learn to box, fascinating experience, but I learned to box not with other people, but against a bag. And for me, it was a really great workout because it just, I don't know, there was something about boom, boom, kind of getting in there, and I'm going to work out my frustration. And I really just kind of took to it. I thought it was great. It wasn't hurting anybody. The only thing I was punching was the bag, but I just loved the physicality of it. And so I had a different level of awareness whenever I would see anything that had to do with boxing once I learned how to punch the bag and kind of, like do the steps or whatever. And I always think in terms of your cheerleaders, the people that are going to remind you that you can get up and go do it again and that you're fine and that you're great. If you ever watch any kind of boxing at all in the movies or anything, when they go to their corner and they just kind of collapse, the boxer will just kind of collapse into the chair, and their trainer comes over and they're, kind of like slapping them around a little bit gently, maybe not so gently, I don't know, but they're throwing water in their face, they're mopping their brow with the towel, they're there, right? They are literally in the corner. And you can hear like, you got it, you've got this, you can do this again, come on, we're with you, you just remember who you are, remember to go through the process, and whatever it is they're saying. But I was so fascinated by that because you could almost feel what's happening. You've got this person kind of down in this chair, and then you've got the trainer just giving them everything they need, including the belief that stand up and go do it again. This is not, I'm not supporting hitting other people or even the support of boxing. I'm just using this as an analogy. But here's what I want you to know around this is you need that kind of community. They are your diehards. They are there for you no matter what. So find that kind of community so that you can create that kind of safe space for yourself with other people. You also want to make sure that you have a community that will allow you to be your authentic self so that you can get real feedback. So these may be some of the same people in your supportive community. These may not be, and support comes in two different ways. So some people are just going to be good for the support no matter what. They love you. You can do it, get up and do it again. Other people are going to support you by helping you dissect what happened. Why did you make these choices? What led you to these decisions? What might you do differently? And they'll kind of fine tune you or help you finesse things, or I call it, tweak you up a little bit. So these are people who love you enough to give you real, honest feedback with your permission and in a way that is loving. It is imperative that you have that kind of community, because if you don't, you're never going to grow. You're always going to think everything that I'm doing right now is the way that it should be done, and that's cool. Because we have our blind spots. I know that I'm not able to see where I need to grow. I'm not able to see where I have rough edges that need to be polished, as I like to say. I'm not able to see, if I would have gone down road A instead of road B, I would have gotten this outcome, and then this outcome and this outcome would have happened as a result of that. So you do want to make sure that you've got people in your community that will hear you objectively. These people are usually really good at analyzation. They're usually good about assessing situations, and they tend to be excellent problem solvers. So if you have people like that, cling to them with everything you've got, stick with them. And if you don't, please go find some, because it is an extremely important part of your journey. You need to be able to grow. So if you don't have this kind of community and support in the community, here's how this can show up in a sales conversation. You can't grow or improve if you don't know what you need to improve upon. So let me give you an example. And this happens all the time with my clients. My clients will come to me and they say, you know what? I keep having bad leads. I've got a bad lead problem. Every lead that I have, all of them, none of them have money. They can't make decisions. They tell me they have to think about it. And then I find out within 24 to 48 hours that they've said yes, and they've enrolled over here with somebody else for more money than I was charging them. First thing, bad leads happen. Bad leads happen to good people, 100%. So I always say this is kind of like if you have the best burger in the world and your entire community is vegan, and you just are bound and determined to make sure that you're going to sell these burgers to these vegans, you've got a problem. That is not you. That is a lead that's not a good fit. So I'm not talking about that. Bad leads do happen. But here's the thing. You have to know in your sales process and in your sales data if you are actually good at the sales conversation. Because if you don't know that, what you're going to think is, I'm just getting a bunch of bad leads. In most cases, the leads are not as bad as people think. It's the conversations aren't becoming clients. The conversations that they have are not turning into paid clients because there is something off in the conversation. So really be careful and be proactive about finding a sales mentor, a sales, I mean, I'm always about continuing education, sales courses, sales classes, a sales mentor, a sales cheerleader, somebody who is experienced and understands how to look at leads versus conversations and then give you some input from there. Somebody who is able to say, tell me what happened. What did this person say to you and how did you reply? And then can kind of fine tune it from there. If you don't do that, you're going to get more and more frustrated. And what's really bad is you're going to churn through more and more people who actually probably are qualified to work with you, who are ready, willing, and able to invest in working with you. And they're not choosing you because they're not really able to understand why you should be the person they would want to work with, and they'll go someplace else. 100% caveat on all of that for those of you who don't know me is never, ever, ever think that a sales conversation is about you selling something to somebody else, meaning it is not your agenda. It is not your goal to go in and get their money. I am incredibly passionate about that. But for those of you who don't know me, I don't want you to hear any of this information and think when I'm talking about a sales conversation, it's you got to go in there and close. You got to make sure you get them to yes. And that's really not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about having an exploratory conversation where you can determine if this is somebody that has the problem that you can solve, and if this is somebody whose personality fit would be good for you. There is nothing more frustrating, there is nothing more detrimental, and there is nothing more unpleasant than working with somebody who is either not a good fit for what you do or not a good fit for who you are. In future trainings, I'm going to be talking a lot about the difference between an objective and a goal in the context of the sales conversation. I'm also going to be talking a lot about how you are already off on the wrong foot if when you get into that conversation, all you're thinking is, how can I close them? How can I get them to say yes? And how can I get their money? I was working with a client a couple weeks ago, and she was actually doing a presentation, and at the end of the presentation was an offer. And it did not go so well. And we had a really long conversation about that. And I said, the thing is, when you go back and you get into your mind and you think about doing your presentation, what was really happening for you? Were you really unattached to the outcome, or was it more like, I hope that this results in enrollments? And she said, I guess I never really thought about it that much, because in my mind, I was saying to myself, oh, I'm just going to go and do my presentation. And if I get enrollments, that's great. And if I don't, that's okay too. But now, Jane, that you and I are talking about it, I'm realizing I did have that. I need this income. I need this to turn into clients. And I said, right. So that's the thing with the goal, is we want to move from the goal to the objective. And your objective is, can I show up and have this conversation? Is this something that if money were no object, I would do for free? Is this something where my sole focus is on determining, is this person a good fit for me? Will I enjoy working with them? And do they have the problem that I can truly solve? And am I the best person to provide that solution? So that was a little bit of a one-off, but the point I really want you all to understand is I am not talking about sales where you go in and you get the close and all of that stuff that you've probably been programmed to believe, and probably have also then therefore been programmed or taught to deliver. And selling, when you really learn, understand what it is, and you start to embrace it, and you actually start to apply it, you will realize how rewarding it is, how fun it is, and how transformational it is. I always say sales is a really noble profession because it's an opportunity to have a conversation that will change someone else's life. So that is enough on that for now. So for a summation for today, I talked about creating safe spaces. Number one, make sure that you create a safe space for yourself with yourself. That is so you can be truthful about what you're feeling. It's so you can explore and own your emotions. And it's so you can say, like, dang tootin', this is what I need. This is what I need. And this is what I want. And I own it. And I am okay with that. That's for you. Number two, create a safe space for your prospects and potential clients. They should feel so loved up and so safe. It is ridiculous when they get into conversation with you. Create that kind of intimacy, come from that place of authenticity. I promise you, you will start having a whole different feeling and mindset around sales. And then number three, create a safe space for you in community. Make sure you have people who will lift you up, and make sure you have people who, with love, will provide you with an opportunity to grow. So that is it for today, creating safe spaces in the sales conversation. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to pop up and say hi, if you would like to book a call with me to explore anything further, you can do that. And you can reach me directly at jane@showstoppingsales.com. Again, that is jane@showstoppingsales.com. Email is the best way to reach me. I can always send you a link to schedule a call if that is something that you would like to do. I'm happy to give everybody my phone number. I did it a couple days ago at a presentation, but the thing is, I'm almost always on the phone, so you probably won't get me. So I prefer email, but I will get back to you. If you would like to talk further, we can certainly do that. And seriously, I love just getting emails. Hi, saw you, thanks, liked your earrings, whatever, it doesn't matter. So that is completion for today. So this is Jane from Show Stopping Sales. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. And I will just close out with reminding you that I see you, I hear you, and you matter to me. Thanks so much, everybody. And I will see you at next week's training. Bye-bye.